Easily 80, if not 90% of the Google Ads accounts that I audit all the time have one big issue, and that is that they are massively overspending on brand. You see, whether it's in active search campaigns or in some other things, whether it's hiding under the surface, most of these accounts, if they reduce their budgets by 50% tomorrow, they would barely see a dip in revenue over the next weeks or months in their back-end stores. And that's, of course, a huge problem, a huge red flag. But the question now is, should you use brand campaigns? If so, how? What's the right number to put on there? Which metrics should you aim for? And how can you make sure that you get the maximum profits, the maximum return on your Google Ads investment? That's what I will cover in today's video that is all about brand and how to do it properly. So, first of all, the big question, of course, is, are brand campaigns necessary, and what's the problem? The main problem that many brands don't even notice, because what you can see here is a prospect, a very, very small brand that is doing very, very well on Facebook that came to us for help with their Google Ads, okay? They're not our client yet, they may or may not become one, but for the sake of this video, they are perfect, and since I just audited them yesterday, this was an amazing fit. So, as you can see here, they have a very classical setup where the most, highest revenue campaign, which is still pretty small, has a ROAS of 16, followed by a PMAX campaign with a ROAS of 2, followed by another search campaign with a ROAS of 6, 2, 14, 13, the list goes on. It's no secret that all of those here that have an insanely high ROAS are brand campaigns from different countries. This one here is a campaign that includes a lot of brand as well, even though it's not purely branded. But the big issue now, the issue that is inflating the numbers even more than it already is here, because you can see an account ROAS of 3.5. If we remove all brand campaigns from here, it's probably in the 1 point something range, right, in terms of ROAS. But now the extra problem is that if I look under the hood of this Performance Max campaign, which I've done for you right here, you will notice immediately that the top conversions that we can actually look at, of course some are hidden, right? But the top ones are branded as well. Another 55, another 22, and then every now and then you can see some sprinkled brand queries in here as well. So it's very safe to assume that even out of the so-called non-brand PMAX campaign, easily 2/3, if not more, of all the volume comes from brand, meaning even those very low, 2.03 in ROAS are massively inflated, and the real ROAS of this campaign is probably below 1 even, or somewhere in that range, which puts further pressure on the entire account's performance, of course. So it's needless to say that such a setup is just, doomed to fail, because all the ad spend so far that you can see here, all these $20,000, to a large degree, they could have been saved by just focusing the brand campaigns, getting the absolute highest profits that you could, and making sure that brand and non-brand is completely separated, right? Because, of course, if I now do a Google search like here, we have a ton of supplement clients. That's why I picked these guys here, Natural Elements, right? The first spots, of course, are always paid. Then they lead with their own first organic listing. And then what happens is other stores that are selling this, right? Other marketplaces that are selling this, and so on and so forth. So what you want to do is, yes, you want to defend your position, of course. You want to have some very low budget brand campaign that captures this traffic and makes sure that, first of all, you're getting conversion data in your account at a very cheap rate, right? So if you get a brand campaign with $30 a day, $50 a day, and it gets you very high ROAS conversions, these conversions will absolutely help you in optimization, right? Because Google now understands better who your customers are. And at the same time, you're defending, as I said, your position so that you make sure that when competitors are showing here as well, as you can see, they are at the first spot, but then they have competitors lining up, the more real estate you can capture on the search engine results page, the better. But, and now it's very important, the metrics need to align, okay? So in this case here, the brand campaigns have a pretty decent ROAS, but I've seen many cases where the brand campaigns literally have a ROAS of 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, which sounds good now because those are generally fairly solid ROAS numbers across all e-commerce verticals. But, and that's the very important point, with brand, of course, you have to account for the fact that these people you have acquired to a degree already, right? You have, or let me put it that way, you have paid money on them already, because if they know you, It means that at some point in the past, you have acquired them with paid ads. You have put all kinds of efforts into them knowing your name. You've probably shown them a lot of Facebook ads or YouTube ads or whatever. And if you only have a ROAS of 3 now, right, it means that you spent all this money before, plus you now spend another third, let's say, of the revenue that you generate from the sale on your final Google Ads touch point, okay? So what does that mean? Well, it means that if you look at these ROAS numbers of 16, 2, 6, or let's actually stick to the brand numbers 16, 14, 13, 18, I always say that a ROAS of less than 5 on branded is, kind of you're losing money, right? It doesn't make sense. Not only are you overspending, inflating your numbers, but you're also not even having a good brand campaign in the first place. If you have a ROAS around about 10, that is what I would consider a pretty, good or a decent brand ROAS, right? Like 10, 11, 12 or something like that. That is pretty good. If you have a ROAS of 20, that's normally where it starts to become a no-brainer, right? Like we have cases with, high-ticket clients, high-ticket electronics, luxury fashion, furniture, where we have literally brand ROAS figures of 80, 130, 180, things like that. Just because, of course, if you sell something for $30, you can probably not get a brand ROAS of 150 because CPCs are not like 3 cents, right? But if you have high ticket items or higher ticket items, literally sky's the limit when it comes to brand campaign ROAS. But the point is anything below 10 or anything below 20 and certainly anything below 10 is almost, not really worth it at all because you have, as I said, all these different touch points, plus you have the actual cost for the brand itself, right? And then if you consider that many brand campaigns may not cross 10% in conversion rate, things are looking pretty dark in that sense. Now, what you have to do is you have to make sure though that with all that in mind, right? Like making sure that brand has a ROAS that is as high as humanly possible, you still need to have the right mindset. I hate that word, but when it comes to growing your account, okay? You, of course, want to focus on growth. You want to focus on those campaigns right here, those that have brand excluded. That's, by the way, another thing that you should do, right? You should exclude your brand campaigns or your brand keywords from your campaigns. If you run PMAX, for example, I have a huge video that's 60 minutes that's here on YouTube that you can watch right after this one, where I go through all the different steps of running a proper PMAX campaign, cold traffic, maximum volume, maximum profits, right? Show you everything from A to Z. And you want to make sure that this is where you spend 95% of your time. Yes, you can optimize your brand campaign. Yes, that does make sense. But the main reason you run Google Ads, of course, is you want that extra cold traffic revenue. That's the only thing that you can scale. So at some point, you should stop obsessing over brand ROAS anymore. If these guys become our clients, yes, I would probably try to get their brand ROAS, well, of course, as high as possible, but let's say something like 25, 26, 27, somewhere in that range, okay? But at some point, whether the brand ROAS is 40x or 45x doesn't really matter anymore, right? Because the ad spend is so low in comparison, meaning that the lever that you have with your brand ROAS is somewhat low, that at some point it's really, not that important, and you need to put all the extra energy into non-brand, right? Non-brand is the engine. If you get a ROAS of 4 in non-brand versus 3, that's a completely different story than if you get like a 45 versus a 40 on brand. So make sure that you have brand in place, make sure that you don't overspend, make sure that everything is separated, make sure that you have a brand ROAS that is as high as possible, make sure that when you look at your reporting, you immediately know, okay, that's branded, that's cold, that's branded, that's cold, or ideally you just have 1 or 2 brand campaigns in total. Remember, your number one job is to have profitable cold traffic and scale cold traffic, which is what we spend all our time on here at Cartlift, where we help e-commerce brands all over the world, normally 6, 7, and 8-figure ones, scale to the next level with Google with exactly that in mind, with a clear and relentless focus on cold traffic. And if you are one of these brands and you've struggled with this exact issue before as well, make sure to check the link in the description where you can book an Ignite meeting with me, where I tell you exactly what you can expect from Google, what the exact next steps are, give you a super actionable roadmap, not one of these, boring sales calls where you just need to hand over a credit card after 10 minutes or anything like that. But instead, I purely give you the actionable roadmap that you can take for yourself if you want to. So with that being said, hope you enjoyed this video. Look forward to see you in the next one. Leave a like, please subscribe if you enjoyed it. And with that being said, thank you very much for watching, and bye-bye.